Hey everyone, my name is Mika, and I'm the co-chair and the co-founder of AAPI in Gaming. Today I'm here with Flo Young and Ahria Nicholas to talk about their upcoming game called Project Umami. Is that how you say that?
Ooh, meow me.
You meow me. Okay, and that's so cute, honestly. A generational nostalgic cooking game. I'm super excited for this. We're also going to talk about their new studio, Century Egg Studios, and their experiences in games and in life. So, to get started, today's icebreaker question to start off with is, what is your favorite video game of all time? Oh,
Oh
that's going to be
boy,
hard.
it's so hard. I have a list. Do you want my list?
Let's
Okay.
do the list.
Okay, how about I'll do my top three? Because, okay, of all time, I would say probably I'll have to say Chrono Trigger is pretty up there. Like I played that years ago as a kid. And it still like lives so close into my heart. I love Twilight Princess of all the Zelda games. Twilight Princess is the best in my opinion.
Somebody's a Twilight Princess enjoyer.
Yeah. And then a more recent game, I would say Disco Elysium. That one impacted me quite a bit. It's such a good game.
I haven't played Disco Elysium because I've been a very action type of person, like action game type of person. So I haven't gotten to try out any of those narrative
Uh,
driven games yet.
mm-hmm.
But the most recent one that I just tried out is A Thousand Times Resist. And that game completely blew my mind. If Remy's watching this, I'm just gonna say this out loud anyway. Be like, yo, this is the second time I'm gonna be repping your game. I just can't believe that this game got me from not being interested to walking simulators, and now I'm like super interested in playing all of them. So great
Wow.
job,
Okay. I gotta add that one to my
Remy.
list then. That's so
I
cool.
actually ended up playing it right after GDC. I
Oh,
Really?
really?
yeah, because I heard I forget exactly, but I heard about it at the meetup, and I was like, all right, you know what? I'm just gonna. It's been on my wish list forever. I'm just gonna buy it, and I played it like on my way back from GDC, and oh my god, it's really good. So I also will say like I will endorse it and say yes, it's great.
But that's not your favorite game of all time,
It is
right?
not my
You could
favorite
probably
game.
have a top three.
I do. So I think my it's also hard to say like what's my favorite of all time, but my favorite top three is probably Chrono Trigger is like my first as well.
Yeah. My first
Um,
love.
yeah, I will say for my Zelda game, like it's funny because I also really like Zelda. It's not necessarily Twilight Princess, although it's really close with Wind Waker. And I feel like people like
Oh,
That's
kind
a
of
there
give
good
we
it
one. That's a good
go.
one.
Wind
Yes.
Waker doesn't get enough love, I think, but like it has a special place in my heart. And then I guess somewhat more recently, because I think it does such a great job with like storytelling and Citizen Sleeper is one that I really really like. It's not it's another narrative game, but it's not on the scale of Disco Elysium at all. But like it definitely has like a really strong narrative throughout it, and I love the simple dice mechanics that are kind of like thrown in there. So yeah.
Hmm.
It's funny that you mentioned Citizen Sleeper because I think A Thousand Times Resist and Citizen Sleeper share the same publisher.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, because I was like snooping around and I found the developer's comment about how do you pronounce the title? Is it A Thousand X Resist or A Thousand Times Resist? And then the developer says it's A Thousand Times Resist. And then I clicked on the developer's Steam profile, and he was the owner of that publisher. Underneath it, I saw Citizen Sleeper and A Thousand Times Resist together. So it's kind of funny how like those two, they're so connected, but we wouldn't know it until we dive into somebody's profile or look up the game's publisher itself. So yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's
Honestly, you both
cool.
picked out my favorite Zelda games of all time. So,
Yes.
because I was a huge Wind Waker fan, and then I started playing Twilight Princess on the Wii. And in terms of storytelling, I think they're both equal. Because both stories are pretty dark when you dive deep into it. In Ocarina of Time, it's a lot of like time jumping and trying to fix things that happened in the future and then making sure it doesn't happen in the past again. But in Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, those things have already happened. So like
Hmm.
a calamity happened and Wind Waker, it flooded the whole world. The I'm not gonna go into this if people have played Wind Waker. Like, if people have played Wind Waker, don't spoil it for anybody about what actually happens in the story. But let's just say that this is like one of those games where it was so slow in the beginning, and then as soon as things starts to pick up, this thing will not let you go. This game will
Hmm.
have you on the edge of your seat until the end, and that's why Wind Waker is like my top. And then the same thing with Twilight Princess. It's like everything was slow in the beginning, and then as soon as you start piecing things together, it's like, oh my goodness, what the hell did I just think? Like, what the heck did I just
Yes.
dive into?
Yes. Oh
So,
my God. I remember I 100%ed Twilight Princess. Like you
Oh
have
my
to
goodness.
collect every like all the side quests where you have to collect the bugs and the Poe. Like I did all of that. I found everything. It took me so long, but that's how much I loved it.
would you say those type of games would influence your upcoming game project Umami
For
in some
sure.
way?
Yeah, for sure. Because our game is going to be, yes, it's a cooking game, but it's going to be also very heavily narrative. So we're hoping to create a very nice um, narr sorry, what is it called? A visual novel type of game. I hope people will jive with that too if they like narrative games. So.
I mean, Disco Elysium and then Citizen Sleeper. I feel like there's gonna be some dark story in there hidden in the visual novel, even though it's masking itself as a cute cooking game. But it talks about generational nostalgia. So there
Yes.
has to be something about generational trauma in there or something.
We'll
Don't let me
see.
influence the direction of the game. So but now that we're gonna go talk about Project Umami, U, Meow
Meow
Me.
me.
Okay.
Meow.
Meow Me. Okay. Let's start with a couple of questions for Flo, and then after we're done with Flo, we'll talk about Aria, and then we'll circle right back. This is gonna be really fun. So let's get to know Flo. So for those who don't know Flo, Flo is it 20 years in like art or
Oh, 10 years, 10 years.
Oh, 10 years. Okay, sorry. I thought you've been in the entertainment industry since you were like a kid or something.
No, no. I may look young.
No.
My name might be young, but
For 10 years, like tell us about yourself before you came into the games industry.
yeah, sure. So I started my career in animation, actually. So I've done background painting in children's television series and layout as well. And I've done shows for Disney XD, Nickelodeon, and I've done like a magical girl show for Nelvana, which is a Canadian company. And then I also had experience with film, with the film industry. So I did a cool zombie versus samurai show that was 3D, and I was one of the designers on there, visual development artist. And I also worked on the film Space Jam 2 on the 2D side of that film, which is quite interesting as a layout artist going from TV to film. But yeah, so that's where I started out in, and then I started freelancing in games. After that, I also did theme park design, which is it's like different, but maybe games adjacent, I guess.
Oh wow, theme parks. Okay, I was not expecting that, not gonna lie. So you
Yeah.
not only just did games, you not only just did the entertainment industry, like film, animation, but you're into theme parks design? That's super cool, honestly. Could I ask like which theme park is it?
Oh,
Or is
yeah.
that
Well,
NDA?
I don't know. It never got made. So it was a theme park for Lionsgate IPs. So it's kind of like dystopian themed, which is quite interesting. I remember I did designs for a haunted house for the movie Saw, like the Saw series, and Cabin in the Woods. We did the Hunger Games, which is pretty dystopian as well. But then we had something like Twilight, like a Twilight Village. So we got like
What?
sparkly vampires somewhere in there.
So it didn't it didn't go through? Oh, someone
No,
needs
it
to tell us.
didn't. Yeah,
All right,
it's
if all right, somebody here. All right, Lionsgate, if you're listening to this, what have you done? Why did you cancel this? You need to let this happen
it
because
wasn't
this is probably.
Lionsgate.
Oh, okay, never
Apparently
mind.
there's a lot of corruption in construction, so I'll just leave it at that.
Ooh.
Maybe that's why Disco Elysium is one of your favorite games because you got into you got into like some weird stuff that you
Yeah.
shouldn't have stumbled upon.
Yeah, could be.
But besides that stuff, how's games for you so far? Has it been thrilling? Has it been fulfilling? Or does it not meet your expectations?
I love working as a developer. So, being an artist in animation, like in TV series, it's okay. A lot of it, to me, it felt like I was coloring by number, and my mind is more like a designer type of mind. I need to be actively solving problems a little bit harder than coloring by number. So, when I had the chance to freelance for Ubisoft on the game Starlink, I was really excited and happy about that. I got to work with the cinematic team at Ubisoft, and it was just on a whole nother level of designing. In animation, I worked on children's animation, so working on something sci-fi and a little bit more mature themes. And then I went on to becoming a art director for mobile games. So with the startups that I worked with, or the indie game studios that I worked with, I got to wear a lot of hats. And that's what I really love about game dev because I don't have to, I mean, I did have to overlook all of the art processes, but I also went into different departments of art. So not just 2D art, but also 3D art, and I got to stretch my muscles there, creating models, making clothing. I learned how to rig and implement all of the assets in there, a lot of texturing and shaders and lighting as well. One of the things that I struggled with at the beginning was UI design, but I ended up really liking that process as well because that's like one of the biggest parts of game development because that's where the player interacts with your game, right? So it's super important and super fun to solve all the issues there. I love it.
Starlink, that must have been really fun because I remember Starlink as Star Fox before they made like a expanded universe, and I was like, oh, so there are humans in this universe or something like that.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah,
it was just really interesting how that went. I haven't played it. I've always wanted to play it because I'm a huge fan of Star Fox as well.
yeah. Hmm.
Honestly, now I'm gonna play it just in your not just in your honor, but like
Oh.
just because I wanted to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
play.
If you look at the cutscenes and you see some of the interior designs, I did some of that.
That's super cool. Well, now I'm even more excited to play.
Yay.
That's pretty much the questions I have just for Flo. The next set of questions will be for Aria. So, Aria, going into your background, tell us a lot more about yourself.
Oh, there's not a whole lot compared to Flo. Um, Yeah, I've actually I'm pretty junior to the industry, honestly. Like I kind of started out from school, kind of just jumping right into the industry as a software engineer, working at kind of a remote company making web games and mobile games. Kind of did that for a little bit and then went over to MGM Resorts, which is like casinos and whatnot. But I never did anything like directly with like slot machines or gambling or anything. It was more on their innovations team. So I did like research and development, doing like stuff with like looking into like new experiences, like new game experiences that were not your traditional gambling experience. And then after that, I kind of jumped over to a game startup working like independently at an indie studio. And then now I'm kind of like working with Flo, kind of doing our own thing.
Yay.
Um, what else? Like, what else would you like to know? I'm
Oh my
always
God.
like,
I don't want Arya to undersell herself because Arya is quite the genius. I
no.
just feel so lucky to be working with her. Like she says she's junior, but whatever I throw at her, she like solves it almost in a second. Like the other day, I gave her some chicken scratch notes of a game implementation that I wanted to put in, like a game design. I didn't even know how to word it, but somehow through our chats, somehow she was able to decipher it and she was able to make it even better, make my idea even better. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, don't sell underself. Don't undersell yourself, Arya. This is
Oh,
somebody
thanks.
with like over 10 years of experience giving you such a huge compliment. Going into the industry after school is a huge deal. I'm not going to lie. A lot of students would want to be in that position.
Yeah.
It's something that we have to also be better at in the industry, by the way, is to recognize the talent that juniors have when they come into the industry and they bring in fresh ideas. This is good for the industry. This is something that a lot of studios just don't take advantage of, in my opinion, because from where I was working from previous times before, I've never heard of like somebody coming from college into our studios. We're always hiring somebody from other studios, kind of like poaching talent basically. And it's something that I wish we could stop doing, because there's a lot of great talent out there. So if imagine if imagine if my last studio had you, Arya, I'm pretty sure like the games would be in a better spot. But we
Aw.
won't talk about that here, because
Aw,
I
thanks.
would probably be in trouble if I say something about my previous companies. But a lot of my companies have been okay to me, so let's just put that out there. I won't say anything about them after that. But yeah, I wanted to ask you: has it always been a dream for you to work in games, or is it something that you stumbled upon on accident?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes and no. It's kind of there's two parts. Yes, when I was growing up, I wanted to make my own games. I literally remember a time when me and a friend we would get together every week. We'd like write out in our notebooks like this like huge world, the story. And we're like, oh, we're gonna make an MMO. It's gonna be like the new World of Warcraft. It's gonna be like me in the seventh grade, thinking like, oh yeah, like we could totally do that. Making an MMO, it's totally possible, right? Yeah. Um, no, that was, and we called it the most generic name ever. It's called Dark Fantasy. Like the
I would
MMO,
play it.
right? Like
I
most
love dark
generic,
fantasy.
most generic MMO ever. Of course, that didn't happen, but that's always kind of been on the back of my mind. And going through school, my parents, oh, games aren't going to really make you like any money, and so I kind of went off getting a real job and studying electrical engineering and like computer science, and then eventually I got into like Japanese and like studying. I wanted to like study linguistics for a little bit, so I've kind of just been all over the place. I spent some time in Japan, and when I came back, I was like, I'm a little burnt out. I'm broke. Like, what else? Like, what am I gonna do? I kind of was like, all right, what do I really want to do with my life? And so I kind of worked for a little bit, and I played games here and there. But I then went to school. Like, I went back to school after a year, and after that, I got into the electrical engineering program there. It just didn't fit quite right with me. They had this other program called Digital Technology and Culture. They basically encourage like narrative storytelling, also like teaching you the tools, teaching you how to actually function in media and not just like in games,
Oh.
being able to tell a story in like any sort of medium. And I was like, ooh, this is really fascinating. You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm actually going to be a game developer. Like,
Yay.
actually what I want to do. Who's going to stop me? Like, so I
There you
ended
go.
up
That's the energy.
yeah. So I
I
ended up
love it.
minoring in electrical engineering instead and just got my degree essentially in game development and went off and got went off and got my job and my first job. But yeah, no, I've always wanted to in some way or another be in games. How I got there was kind of like a really long journey, but I got there eventually, and it's been a wonderful journey meeting all the wonderful people that I've met so far. So that's a long answer of like, have I always dreamt to be in an industry, like working in the industry? Yes.
That's almost the same as my answer when someone asked me about was it always a dream to work in the games industry for me? And I said yes and no. Yes, because when I was a kid, I actually wanted to make a game because of Zelda. And then my parents told me that it won't make me money and that's not a real job. And so it's funny because we tend to mask our desires and our dreams because of what our parents say to us. A lot of times, I feel like this is way more common, not just in Asian cultures, but to everybody. And I think that's really sad because it's like, well, you better give up on your dream before you're older. And that's not a really good way to look into life like that because eventually you probably will come back to it and circle around and say like what if I did this, what if I did that, because what I'm doing currently isn't making me happy, but whenever I think about games it's making me happy and it would be really cool to work in it. And a lot of times I feel like we should talk more about that working in games shouldn't be something that a lot of families should shame their own kids for. If it makes them happy, it makes them happy. Wouldn't you want your kids to be happy? Come
For
on.
sure. I think they want their kids to be secure first, and then they can be happy. And then they can follow their dreams, right?
Yeah.
I mean, which is true though. I'm not gonna lie that sometimes games is a big risk too,
Yeah.
like financially and as well as mentally as well. I know that I've often talked about how sometimes I wish I could just quit games altogether because there's just so much stuff going around. Like the layoffs, for example, it's
Mhm.
mentally burning me out. But at the same time, like when I talk to people to YouTube about working in games, all of a sudden that I am super invigorated to work in games again because people like you and I think that's what games industry is about. It's this whole community of being with other people with the same dreams and the same goals. I think that's something agreeable, don't you think?
Yes, for sure.
Honestly, Aria, we could be like best friends now because we have the same stories. And aren't you
Yeah.
Filipino too?
I'm half Filipino.
Okay,
My
so
mom my
see
mom is
that's
Filipino.
oh okay. So we're already close friends from this point on now because we have the same background in a way, in a way. Now I would love to talk about this upcoming visual novel cooking game that is so cute, it's so colorful. It almost looks like a mix of Animal Crossing and some mobile game UI that I wish I could see more because I love top-down games, by the way, like bird's eye view vision. I probably didn't even talk about like what's my favorite game of all time. But one of my favorite games of all time is Diablo. That perspective is what made me want to play because I can see my character just doing so much damage, and and I can also see my character's outfit too. So like why do stuff when you don't look cool? Fashion in games is also important.
I played so many MMOs, and a lot of it was just for the aesthetics. Like I played Guild
Yeah.
Wars 2 and I wanted all of the cool outfits, all the legendaries. I grinded so hard with my party, with my guildmates. By the way, which I still talk to, and we've been playing with each other for like 15 years now, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Wow. See, my WoW guilds just die in like two years because of some weird raid drama.
Yeah,
So I'm
I
really
mean,
happy
there's
that you
still
have
drama, but we
a.
find a way to keep coming back to each other.
I only just recently joined my recent WoW guild. Sometimes I wish we could push a little harder in the challenges, but at the same time, at 33 years old, I don't have a lot of time in me anymore to play WoW religiously. So my dreams of becoming the number one guild for Race to World First is over anyway. So or
Yeah.
who knows? I don't know. You can't know the future. Going back to like on the topic at hand, Project Umyaomi, which game actually inspired you to make this? Because I know, like I said, Animal Crossing earlier, and then I also know I mentioned Top Down, but I'm pretty sure Diablo is not part of that.
I mean, I played it, so it could be. But no, so there were three main games that we were inspired with. First and foremost was the indie game Venba. It's a South Asian game, and it's a story about an immigrant family, and they work through their challenges with food. So that really, really resonated with me coming from an immigrant family as well. The other two games were Ace Attorney with
Ace
the
Attorney.
yeah, Ace Attorney. There's a little bit of a mystery aspect to our game, so that's like one of the influences from there. Coffee Talk was another influence of ours. So that's one of the games that Arya actually suggested that was similar to the concept that I was thinking of in my head. So my
Wow, Arya.
yeah, Arya has all the best recommendations.
That's a good recommendation. Great job, Arya. That's a
Thanks.
win right there. Reppin' Coffee Talk and Vemba as well. Okay, that makes it exciting because I love Vemba. To see more games inspired by Vemba, South Asian games, especially when it comes to like with the immigrant backgrounds, inspiring other people with the shared experiences. One of the reasons why I also wanted to make my own game about being a Filipino in America and then going back to the Philippines to try to be in touch with your own culture as well. So it's like, I don't have the cooking aspect in the upcoming game that I want to make. Let's talk about the stuff that's in the game as well. So I did look into your website. Century Egg Studios, by the way, play as Bao, a food loving kitten who can't help but put her zesty spin on classic dishes. Immerse in a personal story about three generations coming together, joined by food, learning forgotten recipes, rebuilding bonds past hereditary barriers, and learning to accept love and care from a younger generation.
So you're playing as Bao, um, but the story is about your generational relationship with your family. So the characters will be yourself as Bao, the younger generation. Then you have your mother with you. Her name is Yo. And she also influences your cooking. And then there's Lola, which is grandma in Tagalog, right?
Tagalog,
Tagalog,
yeah.
sorry. So yeah, so you play as Bao and you're going through life as this child of immigrants and you're learning recipes from your cat grandma and the way that she delivers it to you, you kind of have to wrestle the recipes from her because she measures with her heart and with her paw. So that's the mystery aspect of the game. That's kind of where the Ace Attorney comes in, where you have to collect all these clues and try to put together what the recipe actually is. And then playing as Bao, you get all these creative influences from the village that you're in. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. And so you get all of these crazy ideas, sometimes very invasive thoughts, which is kind of inspired by me cooking for my grandma when she was still with us. So sometimes you would put some other cultural ingredients into classic dishes that you learned from your grandma. So the entire point of the game is to try to get your grandma's approval with a very tasty dish. And there's a rival restaurant too, so there's a little bit more gameplay in that aspect.
There's a little bit of conflict thrown in there.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a cook-off, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So Lola, huh? I'm guessing Arya is the one who's bringing in the Lola aspect into this game. See,
Yeah,
so
a
when you
little
brought up the whole,
bit.
yeah, so when you brought up that Lola doesn't cook with a guide or anything, she cooks from her heart. I had like I had like a memory of my mom telling me that, like, why do you need the measuring cup? You just eye it, you know?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what happens if I make it too salty or I make it too bitter or
Yeah.
something? And it's like, then that's your fault. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
You didn't put your heart into it. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
Bao is supposed to represent all of us of just trying to figure out what kind of recipes like is delicious and trying to make the dishes your own. I know that was very like something that inspired me. The dishes that like we grew up with, that to me is like, oh, I can share that with other people, and then they can also take that and make it their own, make their own version of that. That's how like you spread. I think that's one of the best ways to spread culture. you know.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
through
I think
food.
absolutely.
and I think it's also a way for yourself to explore your own identity. So
Yeah.
for me, when I get recipes from my grandma, it's like, yes, this is great. This is delicious. This is the food that my grandma grew up with that she's trying to recreate here in America with these ingredients. And then for me, because I grew up here in the West, I also grew up with my own cultural identity, which is more American. So like I remember I do little pranks with my grandma sometimes. I remember I made something, I put Cheetos in something for my grandma just to see what her reaction would be. I think it was fried rice.
Oh my
No.
goodness.
Oh, it was a sticky rice rolls. I call them chifan in
Mhm.
Cantonese, and she would make them every weekend for us. And it's usually with a fried dough, the yaoqiao in that's in Mandarin in the middle, and then there's like pork floss in there as well, and then wrapped in sticky rice. And sometimes there's like pickled veggies, which I didn't like as a kid, but I was thinking maybe it probably tastes good now. But with my invasive thoughts, because I love Cheetos, I thought, oh, Cheetos would add a little bit of crunch to it and some cheesiness. Like, I love that powdered cheese. And so I put that in there, and I got the best reaction from my grandma. It's like a mixture of disgust, but also pleasantly surprised with the crunchiness with the sticky rice. So I had a lot of
Oh,
fun.
it's like that. It's gonna be like that one meme where that one woman was drinking beer and she's like, and then she's like, oh, nah, no,
No.
huh?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
has to be in the game. That meme right
That
there.
me. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I just love moments like that, just like connecting with older generations.
So that rice cake that you or sticky rice roll, what did you call that again?
We call it Qifan, and I think there are different versions of it as well. So there's a Taiwanese version of it called Fan Tuan.
When I think of sticky rice in the Philippines, the first thing that comes into mind is suman malakit. So Aria probably knows that. And I mentioned that in the Filipino American History Month. That was like one of the very first things that I mentioned to everyone, because everybody knows lumpia or ube treats and stuff like that, but I always like to bring up like things that a lot of people don't know about. And I know a lot of people in America love ube treats, and I always tell them like, well, have you tried buko pandan, which is really really delicious. I know it's green and it kind of grosses people out because of its color. The moment you put like a spoonful in your mouth, it's like, wow, this
So
is like,
good.
it's chewy, it has a really great texture, and it's not too sweet. It's just right. It's just right.
Yeah,
The right amount of sugar.
Isn't that like the best compliment? Not too sweet for any
not too
dessert.
sweet, right? It's perfect.
Yes, honestly. Honestly, I remember hearing from my friends when they try out my mom's ube cakes. They were so pleasantly surprised that it wasn't as sweet as they thought, because a lot of times when people get ube cake, they would probably think about going to Goldilocks. It's a Filipino bakery for those who don't know, or Red Ribbon, another one too from the Philippines. And two places, those places did not vibe well with my mom because they make ube too sweet, and she's like, I'm gonna show them how I do it. And she like begrudgingly just made ube cakes her whole life just so she could tell people this is exactly how it needs to be. My spouse, she loves the heck out of the taste from my mom's cooking, and she would refuse to go anywhere for ube cake unless it's from my mom. So that's pretty much how my standards are when it comes to Filipino food. That if it's not to my mom's liking, there's no way I can eat that.
It needs to be mom's approval.
Yeah, the mom stamp of approval, and I'm pretty sure
Right.
you're gonna probably put that in there in your game. If it doesn't have Lola's seal, it's not good enough.
Exactly, yes.
Honestly, if we keep talking about food, it's just gonna keep going. Because I know when I try to talk about this with my last session, we almost went over 20 minutes of talking about just food itself, and it has nothing to do with the games itself. So I think it's important to talk about food no matter what when it comes to AAPI Heritage Month, because it is one of the best ways to share culture with each other.
Mhm.
So I know for sure in the next session I'm probably gonna talk about food again.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's such a shared love language among our families as well. So,
Besides food, do you hope that this game, I guess what I'm trying to say is the things that you hope to achieve with this game, do you hope that not only with the narrative and the gameplay being to your liking, but do you hope that people resonate with this game in terms of authenticity, being unique, or just the fact that you can relate to this game is more than enough for you?
I think.
um,
Oh, you wanna answer that?
oh, that's okay. You can go ahead.
I think like for me, it's whenever we've talked about the game to other people and like just telling the premise, everybody has like they hear the premise, they're like, "Oh, that's great," and you can see the gears turning in their head of them thinking to a dish that they grew up with, something that their grandparents made for them or their parents made for them, and you can kind of see like, oh yeah, they're thinking back to that one dish that like gave them joy, made them feel nostalgic and safe. And I'm hoping that like impart a little bit of that feeling in this game to allow people to kind of feel that again. Being able to like kind of make these dishes and like really connect with the characters in the game. Yeah.
That was basically what I was gonna say. You nailed it, Arya.
Great.
I mean, you're already doing that with me, and I haven't played the game, so I'm just remembering like what happened in my memories. And as you're telling me that you like to be a little mischievous with your grandma's cooking or your mom's cooking, I'm pretty sure there are some moments in my life that I've done the same in and I would get really mean looks by my parents because it's like you messed it up, and it's like, why? Like, what's so different? It's not the right thing.
Yeah.
Not no seal of approval. You're gonna do it all over again. So we know that you're working on this game as we're speaking. Are there any challenges that you're currently facing when developing this game? So whether that be like funding or scope or maybe just time in general.
So, I mean, you pretty much said almost all of the above. So, we're
Oh,
currently
okay. Sorry.
looking for, no, no, it's all good. We're currently looking for funding and definitely keeping scope down because there's so many dishes that we want to include. Maybe there will be DLCs somewhere along the line, but it's still early to say. And we are a pretty small team. We're a team of 5 currently. We would love to expand if we do get funding. But part of the reason for keeping the scope down to a minimum is so that we can really take care of our team members and be able to deliver this game with the with the timeline that we put for ourselves.
Healthy boundaries.
Yeah,
Things
for
that we
sure.
all need to practice in game development.
Yeah, I mean, we're making games. This shouldn't be stressful, right? It should be fun.
Absolutely. And I totally agree with that sentiment. So now that you're in games industries and being AAPI developers, what are some challenges you have experienced while navigating in the industry? Because being able to break into the industry is one thing, but to go through the industry with all the things that you have seen in the office, in outside work, there has to be some challenges that you've also experienced along the way.
Well, okay. So first of all, I would say I feel like my experience so far being a developer in AAPI, this kind of also goes for like being part of the LGBTQ community as well. Like I feel like I've been in like this kind of bubble of I've been surrounded by people who have really helped encourage me, kind of push me along and, help me out. I know that that's not the case for a lot of people and, there's definitely been times where I have encountered some wants. I guess maybe not necessarily challenges, but like things that like I really want to have happen. Like for me, when I was first starting out, I didn't really see a lot of API representation in games and let alone someone who looks like me. And so it's really nice to start to see some of that change actually happening. And again, like I feel like I've been kind of in this like little bubble of like, oh hey, like everything's fairly okay considering what's been going on in the world. I think for me, it's I want to see more Asian like representation in the game industry and in leadership, and I think that's the main thing I want to see. I think it's also hard.
Wow.
Also, I guess one more thing too. Like, it's also kind of hard because me and Flo, we're starting a studio together, and there's not a lot of. We're already in a very, very small percentage of game developers of indie studios, women who are leadership and are running a studio. That you don't see that very, very often. Hopefully, start to change, but as far as I know, it's still very, very teeny. And so that's another thing I would love to see more of, work towards lifting other developers. So doing this and like talking with you and getting the word out there.
Wow. I don't know if I can top that.
No, 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 no.
Some challenges that I've gone through, sometimes I find myself uh, the only woman of color in a room of executives and stakeholders. I've also been in situations where things got uncomfortable, made me quite frankly mad too. That also came with a group of people who were also my allies, who didn't share the same identities that I did, but they were there to boost me up and back me up during times of conflict. So oftentimes I found that people underestimated me quite a bit, and they also would assume that I wouldn't speak up or speak my mind, but I have a lot of opinions. So if you say something off color, I'm gonna let you know. So yeah, there were some challenges like that, but for the most part, I think I had also a lot of allies to help me through that. And as well, I wanted to talk about sometimes when you're on a project that is very culturally sensitive, that is not your own per se. Like I worked on a show about zombies versus samurai, and I'm not Japanese, but sometimes when you're in a room full of people that are not of Asian descent, they would often look towards you, the only Asian on the team, and expect you to have all the answers. So I luckily worked with somebody who said a really strong sentence or strong idea that he gave me is that you don't have to have all of the answers. It's okay if you don't, and try your best to do all of your research. And if you can, find consultants, but just don't feel like you have to be the one to have all of the answers because oftentimes you don't.
Everybody seems to look at samurai and it's like, oh, it's an Asian warrior. And it's like, there are a lot of other Asians who don't have samurais in their culture. In the Philippines, we don't even have those words. We just have fighter, warrior, and fighter is just probably the most generic and probably the most safest way to go about close combat oriented individuals. There is that talk about how people romanticize Japanese culture a lot more than any other culture in the Asian regions.
Let's have more Southeast Asian, South Asian, even Central Asian, you know. There's a lot of different Asians out there. Let's have more representation, you know.
You're working on a game that features samurai. There's no one in the room that isn't Japanese.
No. None of us were Japanese.
And see, there we go. This is why it matters a lot to talk about these things, because it does get frustrating a lot. There are certain expectations of you, and sometimes it just feels like there's this dreadful stare down on you because the success of the game all on your shoulders, and it's like, what, can we just talk to somebody else about this stuff, because I'm not the expert here. I don't know anything about samurais. Like, yes, I've seen them in TV. I don't know if I'm seeing the accurate representation of a samurai warrior, to be fair. In a lot of media, they just, when they talk about samurai, they're talking about a ronin instead, like a lone warrior. And I'm like, no, a samurai is somebody who,
They're like official, they're military, right?
yeah, yeah, they have someone that they serve under. If this person's not serving under a master, it's like, they're not a samurai. That's a ronin. Get that right.
I watch enough anime to know. I'm kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah, at least I understood that. But I guess that leads into this next question and the final question. Do you feel like in the current market of games there's just too much of one thing and not enough of the other when it comes to Asian representation? We already just said the answer where we just like, we need more South Asian representation and not just samurai.
Yeah. Yeah, so I feel
Yeah.
like I've seen enough Chinese games because the games industry is pretty big in China, and a lot of Japanese culture in media as well. So I would love to see like more Southeast Asian, like my dad is Chinese Cambodian. I would love to see something from Cambodia, Malaysia, Indonesia. Um, I mean, there's a lot more cultures there, not just those countries, but
Places with rich
Philippines,
histories.
yeah.
I also want to see games that also have that cover the Asian diaspora as well. Like, I hope that our game also like helps push a little bit too. Like, we're a mishmash from different like cultures and backgrounds, and so I think this is like our game could be a really great example of like, hey, we can help with that representation. Yeah, I want to see more. I want to see more games from the Philippines or about the Philippines, just because for me, it's something that I want to kind of reconnect with because growing up, I didn't have as much of that as I wanted. And it's now from high school, like being an adult now, I'm finally like, starting to reconnect with a lot of those with that background. I want more of that. I want to see more of that. What way can I get that? And so I would love to see more stories like that.
I think we are going to see more games like that because after starting AAPI in gaming last year, I started noticing other studios who are of AAPI and they talk about the diaspora in their games as well. And it was just a really cool thing just to see while starting this organization. And I don't know if it was just a coincidence or it's just that we all had this shared feeling that I'm sick of tired of seeing the same thing, and the only way we're going to see any changes is if we do something about it. So
yeah, exactly.
So
yeah,
excited about that.
I am too when it comes to Asian American diaspora. Even though they're not from the United States, they are in Canada. I'm talking about 1000 times resist again. Like there is this part that really hit me a lot. One of the characters was abandoning their heritage to try to fit into the area that they immigrated to. And I thought that was just really sad, but I also realized how common that is for a lot of us. And that point on, I just could not put down the controller until I actually had to go to sleep. Of course, I'm not gonna play the game 12 hours straight. But that game, I'm just telling you, you gotta try it.
Putting that on my list.
I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure people in the audience have probably have looked at it, and if you have not played it, you gotta play it right now.
I
I
think
know
so.
this is not a thousand times resist session, but I'm just repping it right now. Well, that's actually all the questions we have today. I really thank you both for coming on to this session. It was such a joy to learn so much about you two and to learn about your upcoming game and your studio, your aspirations, and your goals. Because a lot of times I feel like we don't really know what's happening out there until we all decide to like, hey, let's hang out and talk about the stuff that we're doing. We want the community to know what we're doing as well. And I hope that a lot of people who have listened in will feel inspired after this. And also, please let us know on the updates for your game. Because as soon as you drop the wish list button, like we're gonna straight up put up the promotion for you, okay?
Hey,
Thank
thank you.
you.
I already love the premise of it, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to see my Lola in there. I want to thank everybody here for joining us today as well. Thank you so much for celebrating AAPI Heritage Month with us. Stay tuned for other episodes of AAPI and Gaming podcasts or sessions and things like that. If you want to join us, please let us know. Thank you so much, Flo. Thank you so much, Aria. I hope to see you again in another session in the future when you are close to releasing like a beta test or something. We're going to talk about that too.
Oh, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Happy AAPI Heritage Month, everybody, and I'll see you around.
Hey,
Bye.
Bye.
bye.